What's up, friends? So, I'm expecting that you watched my end of the year predictions that I posted on the channel, so I'm not going to go over too much of that stuff. If we do look at the dollar, remember, for the longest time we were watching to see if we were going to take this buy side, and last week with this daily candle we opened and plummeted. ICT specifically called out this balanced price range. He said if we get below it, then we're going to have to reevaluate. He said if we get below this, then we're going to have to reevaluate this buy side idea. So yeah, last week we had a really aggressive run up on the indices. I am expecting a little bit of retracement, but I'm going to be targeting these highs for buy side. We'll see what it brings us. For our Monday, we have Fed Powell speaking at the end of the week. So high impact news this week. Keep that in mind. Nothing today though. But you can see here I mapped out the high and the low of Friday's PM session. So we'll be using those for the sake of liquidity. Remember that high is going to be this daily high. So I'll be looking at those for the sake of liquidity. We also have the London low here. I just thought I'd call that out. You can see we created a new week opening gap. It's not the biggest, but I still have it on there. And it looks like the market is opening and we're running for that buy side. I don't think there's anything too obvious right now aside it's about to be taken. So I'm interested to see, just kind of wait for the opening range. Again, we're pulling the account back to break even, so I'm just going to try and make sure we be really selective with the trades we take. We've been on a good winning streak. We had a really good October. Great October. And the goal is to just carry that into November. September was rough. It wasn't too rough. It was just a little abnormal, a little longer losing streak than I'm used to. But now that we're back in our groove, we're just going to ride that groove until we get this account back to break even, and then we'll start to kind of put our foot on the gas a little bit once that happens. Not too interested in shorts. I'm really just keeping an open mind on this one right now. I think today might be one of those days where I don't know if today's gonna be one of those days. So let's just wait. Again, I know in the higher time frames, like the hourly and the 4 hour, I'm gonna be looking for longs up to there, but we've moved so far. I would expect on the daily a retracement a little bit. Let's go call out our opening range gap. with the opening range gap. So if you can see right here, this London low I noted, right? Where is that? Right there. So NASDAQ didn't come as low. We made even lows. These are perfectly even lows. NASDAQ didn't come as low. But they both wiped out. They both took that all the London liquidity, which is nice. So I think I'll probably be taking, I'm most excited for the back half of the week, just to reiterate. You know, I am expecting these higher prices, but I think the daily could use a retracement. Remember, it doesn't have to, but I think the daily could use a retracement. So I'm thinking maybe that's what Monday, Tuesday could shape out. Then Wednesday, Thursday with the high impact news is what will send us higher. Noticing how he took out, just noting how he took out the London buy side. So if we start to break down below this opening range gap, and especially if we get below, under this red line is the bottom of the new week opening gap. So I'll be wary of that. But if we get below that new week opening gap, then I'd definitely be interested in more shorts. Let's play and wait and see. Gonna take a look at NASDAQ. Interesting. You can see, so we had the 930, we had the swing low, swing high, swing low. NASDAQ went up, already took it. NASDAQ also already took the previous PM session high. So ES is lagging a little bit to the upside. Lagging to the upside. Which makes sense. When I spoke earlier about how this low right here on ES was an equal low with the London low. So NASDAQ made a higher low. More strength to the upside. Yeah, definitely a good idea to wait out this opening range. So this is one of those examples where it's really useful to have the other indice, INSIGHT, whether you have multiple monitors, or I keep it on here just so you guys I can point to things so you guys can see it as well. Okay, so we had ES delivered to the bottom of the opening range, touched the top of the new week opening gap perfectly. Now we're coming up. I think if we start to take these highs, today's probably going to be up close day. But if we continue below this new week opening gap, this right there was a raid on the London session liquidity for lower prices. Probably see a down close day. This price action overnight is a little difficult. If you look at ES, look at the 15-minute. I mean, it's like up this perfect corridor up. So it's hard to map out highs and lows. I mean, you got them in here, but I'd really want to see NASDAQ and ES too get a little more in sync. For the 10 o'clock hour, that would be nice. Yeah, so if you can see it on the 1 hour, I like the idea of us retracing a little bit for higher prices. Okay, I'm going to get this red line off there so we can just see the bottom of the new week opening gap. We're taking the London low right now. So London high to London low. I want to see how we treat this new week opening gap. Next sell side is the Friday PM session low. And then what I'm looking at after that is this hourly order block. And I'm going to measure only the body of it. And if you notice, this London low came nicely to the 75%, or the upper quarter of that. You can see it more here on the 15-minute. So I'd probably be targeting, after that PM session low, the mean threshold. Okay, so we delivered to the bottom of the new week opening gap. Candle bodies respect to the top of it, but I'm thinking we're going to go see a little lower. You can see on the NASDAQ we shifted market structure to the downside. If you're reading price, we had the sweep liquidity here. We had the fair value gap form. Bodies respected. Consequent encroachment. We came down, shift in market structure, or change in the state of delivery, shift in market structure, came back up to this up close candle, delivering both sides of the opening range gap. Remember, just keep in mind, look at the 15-minute. This isn't super obvious. It isn't super clean price. So don't rush. You could also, could also call that a 2022 model. I would have preferred like a fair value gap in here, you know, after the market structure shift. But that's the aggressive entry. Remember, for high probability in the silver bullet, we want at least 10 handles of probability. And right now, so where we're at in relation to our downside levels, again, we got the previous PM session low and the mean threshold of this hourly order block. We're like right there. We're like right on top of it. It's like barely 6 handles to that mean threshold. That's another thing too. When you get this really sloppy price action like this and the price isn't moving too much, it's easy to like zoom in on the chart a lot to like fit the candles, but then it's easy to kind of forget that like, well, I fit the candles to how I like to view them, but in reality, their movement is nothing. That's why you'll see me often like doing this, like random areas. If going into 10, we saw some pretty aggressive candles to the upside, I would like longs. That would be off the narrative that we swept. We swept London buy side, came down, swept the London sell side, and today is going to be large. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we spend most of the day between this high and this low. Again, remember, no news today. Volatility is mid to end of the week, and we don't hide from high impact news. It induces volatility, and we like volatility as traders. It's just there's certain days when you have to, kind of separate volatility and the manual intervention of like things like non-farm payroll and FOMC that we're told to stay away from. NASDAQ dipped into its opening range, couldn't get to 50%. See, it's a little hard. This is the hard part about when they're not in perfect sync, because NASDAQ took this high, whereas if it didn't take that high and they both left it intact, then it'd be a lot more enticing as a draw of liquidity. So I just said, if we have aggressive price to the upside, I would like a long entry for the silver bullet, but that was framing that this previous day's high would be our draw on liquidity. And it's not as confident, like I can't say that as confidently if we already took that draw on liquidity on NASDAQ. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just when you're reading price, it's better to see them both draws on liquidity be in place. gonna want something. It's like a really aggressive and obvious upside move. Again, remember, a PD, a fair value gap is going to form, and a PD array is going to form. It's going to be respected, but you should always ask yourself, how strong is your conviction in the draws on liquidity? Like, I'd like to see NASDAQ get above that high. It would give me a little more confidence that seeing as like it already took that buy side, remember. So remember, so like if the draw on liquidity is to the upside and NASDAQ was the leader, we should see NASDAQ make a higher high as it's the leader to the upside draw on liquidity. So like, yeah, ES is like, you could frame this as a swing high, you know, on the same time frame, on the same few minutes. This is a swing high on NASDAQ I'd like to see broken. We already broke it on ES, but again, I want to see it on NASDAQ because I want NASDAQ to show upside structure even after it taking that buy side. I like that candle. I just want it to be below the new week opening gap. Again, I'm not going to try and short through the new week opening gap. Again, that order block that we called out earlier, price came back up to it, respected it. NASDAQ is below these lows right now. ES isn't. And just to reiterate, if there's anyone that hasn't heard this from me, I do not like to take shorts when through new week opening gaps, because you could think of them as areas of support / resistance. So I'm not gonna take a short right above it to try and go below it. I would wait till we're below it. You could get an entry off of it on a retracement, but for example, see how we respected it to the upside both times here. It does look like it wants to get through it, but we have to wait for that confirmation. This is some rough. This isn't clean price. I would actually like it now, upside more if we came and took that high. Because we'd be violating this for value gap. But if you look on the 5 minute, I mean, yeah. So sometimes I feel like I get a little too caught up in talking about the 1 minute. Look at the 5 minute. We haven't done much. The 15 minute looks gross. The 1 hour does look nice. We're just gonna, it's at the 1 hour, so we're gonna have to wait for a little longer for that to play out. So as you can see, that fair value gap was holding off price. Yeah, if that new week opening gap wasn't right there, I would have liked that as an entry. Say this new week opening gap was like further down here. I think ES and NASDAQ are getting a little more in sync, which I like. On the 5-minute, NQ still hasn't taken that low. Remove that just to clean it up a little bit for now. Yeah, so looks like we're gonna go take these previous PM session lows. Remember, day trading isn't everyday trading. You don't need to put a trade on every day. Okay, so we finally have NASDAQ also taking these 5-minute lows. Do not want to look at crypto. One day I won't press the up arrow on accident. Notice how on NASDAQ, respecting this week's new week opening gap, it didn't take that London low yet. I want to watch these two PD arrays. Nope, did it again. I would have preferred it if we took that PM session low before this retracement, but I'll take it. See what it looks like. Again, this isn't good price, so after coming in, chopping up the opening range gap, breaking below the new week opening gap, I would have expected it to stay below the new week opening gap. The fact that it just kind of like puttered below it and then we came right back up and closed above it, I think we have to start taking out some buy side liquidity. If it like comes back down, I'm probably not trading this morning. That shouldn't happen. So this was a fair value gap that delivered 5 handles. Could argue that was the silver bullet, but I don't really like that as an idea. I'd want to see us make a big candle through this fair value gap to the upside. Okay, I like that. I want to see how the next two candles print. I want to see it close above this. I like that. I like that. I do wish that this came a tick above these two candles. Perfectly even. Watching how he came down, touched the top of that, filled this in. I'm very hesitant because we technically didn't break structure here. See, if it comes up even, but didn't go past it, we just need the wick to go past it. That constitutes a break, a shift in the structure. And then the fact that we closed in this fair value gap, I'd want to see this act as an immediate rebalance. So within the next two candles, it looks like it's not going to do it. I would have wanted to see it immediately go up. See that right there? Okay, this could be a little gem. That is why I did not take this as an inversion, purely because we didn't break. I probably wouldn't have taken it anyways, just because the price this morning is a little but especially because we did not break. We just came even to that high. NASDAQ didn't break that high either. Yeah, I don't think this is too tradable. Like I said, for example, coming down here, breaking up through the new week opening gap, treating it, respecting it, going higher, disregarding this fair value gap, but then failing to make that high, coming back down, going through the new week opening gap. It's very high resistance. I'd rather wait for the PM session and see if we can get a little clearer draws on liquidity in the PM session. And then we'll see if price, wants to move a little quicker. This was a little bit of expected. We just came off a monstrous Thursday and Friday, and then Wednesday. Yeah, so a monstrous end of last week. No high impact news in the morning on this Monday. So it makes sense that it wants to generate. And remember, the algorithm is generating liquidity. So when we opened this morning, there wasn't a whole lot of sentiment. Like there wasn't a whole lot of sentiment, because no matter what you're trading, it could be super overbought. It could be people use terms like overbought, overextended. Nobody's going to try and pick a top, so nobody's going to try and go short. Everyone's a little too afraid to go long because we've already had 3 days of practically straight up. So what is it going to do? It's going to open, trend sideways, generate sentiment, and then in the PM session. Could do it in the lunch too. We don't trade lunch, but I've seen it do it in lunch. I feel like sometimes when the morning opens slow, lunch will run. But I'm probably not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna trade this morning. I'm gonna wait for the PM session. Hopefully, we'll get some. It'll generate some obvious liquidity. I mean, we do have some obvious right here, but what I'll be looking for is price to be acting on it very intentionally. So, for example, if this came down and wicked below this liquidity and then made this structure, I probably would have closed above this high, came down to a fair value gap to take, because we took sell side, so we knocked out anybody who was trailing their buy stops that was long. We engaged breakout traders to go short, but then reversed it on them. So when you do that, that's why, when you take these levels of liquidity, you need to watch how it reacts to see if the market was the algorithm using that to stimulate a price run. So I'll be waiting for the afternoon. I'll hang out a little bit just because the fact that we came up but didn't come below this new week opening gap, I might hold out for a fact that we could get an ugly run above these highs and find an entry just to this buy side, but I'm not too interested. It's gonna have to be really obvious. Again, one of the other reasons I kind of wanted to do this channel was just to showcase, a realistic expectation that you're not every silver bullet, 10 to 11 isn't going to be super obvious or clear. So this was a fair value gap. It looks like it delivered 5 handles. Not even. This one did. There's going to be times when it's technically, you can measure out a fair value gap that delivered 5 handles, but that doesn't really mean it was the silver bullet. And that doesn't mean it's something that should have been traded. No profit, dude. Yeah, that sounds like a good thing. Um, One of my favorite things to do is to target new week opening gaps for targets. So in that case, you said you took the 951. This one, right? No, 51. Shorted at 951. Right here. Yeah, no, that's definitely super valid. You had the shift in market structure below both of these lows. I'm guessing it was that tiny gap. Came up, not too bad drawdown, stop up there. You're also above the opening range gap. I do like it a lot if you find a setup that is to the opening range gap, and then you can target through, and like if you have the new week opening gap below it, that's also a pretty sick setup. It's one of the, so on ES, that was hard because that entry, yeah, that setup wasn't the exact same on ES, as you can see, and it's kind of one of the struggles. I think that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people trade NQ over ES. What am I trying to do here? Yeah, so like that entry though on ES, technically you could say it delivered. I mean, there's really no fair value gap that formed in ES, but it did do the similar structure where it retraced a little bit, then delivered lower. But again, I'm trying to. I did get a little caught up in this last month, but the way I would like to trade on this channel is to be a little more selective and then try and catch, the entire daily range on an expansion, a candle that's expanding. So then even remember, if we're looking at the daily chart, remember that these highs and lows are also, it's like the confusing thing where this isn't the high and the low of our New York session. This is the high and the low of London as well. So like technically today, this is the high of our New York session. But the low isn't. So this is such a small candle, but I do want to eventually get to a point where, we're trading like two days a week, finding really good setups, and then what it will be is, and I think I've kind of hinted at it. I've said like we're definitely gonna put our foot on the gas a little more for this this demo account once we get it back out of break even. And what I want to do is I want to be, finding those setups that will be catching the daily range and we'll be leaving runners on, and that's how we're really gonna kind of get that equity curve to look a lot nicer. And when you do that, that is, I mean, at least for me, I think it's really, I had to really narrow down my trades and not get too caught up in kind of some short stuff like scalps. the 15 minute is looking pretty good for upside. Let's see, depending on how these candles print above this high. Again, similar story to what we said here. I want to see closes. Definitely we have to get above it. A close above it would give me more confidence. And then I'd look to see what the fair value gap looks like. Measure out the risk. I like that we're above the opening range gap if that was to happen. I'm going to take this off just because it hasn't really helped us. Kind of completely disrespected it right here. Cool. So you can see us kind of shifting to the upside. I like that candle. I want to see it close a little stronger. We're also shifting structure on the 5 minute. You can see you have this swing high here, came down, shifting on the 5 minute. See what this next candle does. I would buy one there. Put the stop loss there. If we don't enter this and it acts as a breakaway gap, that is more bullish for the upside. You can see here we broke above, came down, closed in immediately, then ran. I would have preferred it a lot more if we took that sell side. Okay, let's watch how this candle respects. If we get a close at the the body comes down and closes. Not like that. I don't really, I'm still not liking that. I know okay, let's just wait. Let's wait. I need to see us respect this wick. Not really liking this too much. Gonna exit right there. Yeah, again. So you heard me kind of say it. Yeah, you heard me say it earlier. I was saying, that kind of right around here was giving that little spiel about how I would just trade the PM session. When you get those feelings, definitely listen to them. As you can see here, I wasn't too excited about anything in price. And then I guess this is probably a good example of a little bit of an impulse trade. But again, it wasn't anything, a little small loss. But remember, those are gonna add up. So try to not take those. That wasn't super good on my part. But again, little risk, didn't work out in our favor. I'm not surprised if you've just, thinking back on everything I said regarding how price was acting. If you notice, what happened was when we came down here and then we wicked above it, this next candle shouldn't have came and closed at the bottom of this wick. Right when that happened, I knew we were going to go lower. And what was probably happening is it looks like it was reacting right off of this older fair value gap. And I was noting that in my head, and what I decided to look at was NASDAQ. And I guess that's one of the hard parts when these markets aren't in sync, because that fair value gap, if you can see on NASDAQ, they just didn't line up. So they were kind of like this story, this narrative that we came up back to this fair value gap doesn't really exist on NASDAQ. Cool. Hopefully price is a lot cleaner, or does more in the PM session. Again, what I'll be looking for is, I think we're going to stay in this range. So I'll be looking for the PM session to see if we kind of act on any liquidity in an obvious way. Another one of the reasons why this wasn't super high probability was we never took any, like if we took this sell side, yeah, there you go. But we didn't. I'm definitely going to log off now. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.